to our lecture number 12. So in this lecture we are going to talk about second language learning. We have in lecture 11 we talked about first language acquisition, and in this lecture we are supposed to talk about second language learning. So to begin with, let's distinguish between the foreign language and second language. I think first language is already known. I have already explained the meaning of first language in the previous class in lecture 11. I mentioned that first language is the language that we acquire from our parents, from our adults, or from our older children during the infancy stage, or during the before the critical age, or before 6 or 7 years old. Second and foreign language are always come together. Okay, so we need to understand the subtle differences between these two concepts. Sometimes they are used as synonyms, and in other times they are used as two completely different synonyms, or these are they have two different meanings. So foreign language learning involves learning a language that's not generally spoken in the surrounding community. Okay, for example, in Saudi Arabia, English is considered as a foreign language because it's spoken. It's not the main language. It's not spoken in public. Okay, and it's not the official language. It's just it's a foreign language that's used in education, and sometimes it's used in work or in workplace. On the other hand, second language learning involves learning a language that is sometimes spoken in the surrounding community, such as the situation of English in some Asian countries, or in India or in Malaysia. It's considered as a second language because it's the official language. It's used in some public places. Okay, so the expression of second language learning is used generally to describe both situations. Again, this is sometimes. So sometimes if we say second language learning, this is a generic term that may refer to second language learning as well as foreign language learning. Let's come to the next point, which is a core point, that is the differences between acquisition and learning. So acquisition refers to the gradual development of ability in a language by using it naturally in communicative situations with others who know the language. It takes place without necessarily having teachers. Okay? It might take place at homes because it's a natural process. It starts from, since birth. On the other hand, learning applies to a more conscious process of accumulating knowledge of the features of language, such as pronunciation, grammar, maybe semantics or meanings, in an institutional setting with teachers. It's a different process. It's a more complex process. It takes time. It requires some effort to be exerted by the learners. Okay, unlike acquisition, which is more comfortable, okay, which takes place unconsciously and without paying attention. So this is the main distinction. This is the main difference between acquisition and learning. Let's come to acquisition barriers. Okay, so acquisition is different from learning first language, and people usually encounter or need second language learning during teenage or adult years. Okay, some parts of language are easier to be learned, such as vocabulary and grammar, more than pronunciation. Okay, which is very complex to be achieved after the during second language learning, because it takes a matter of time. In addition to this, they can be hardly master the pronunciation. I mean, children can hardly master the pronunciation in similar way as native learners or first language speakers who exposed to language in their early years of life. So this is a very hard. This is a very hard thing to be achieved after, for example, after the teenage or after the early years of life. Very few adults seem to reach native-like proficiency in using L2, okay, which is considered as one of the factors related to age. So what is it? What is age factor? The age factor, okay, is a type of this type of observation, which is the age factor, is sometimes taken as evidence that after passing the critical period for language learning acquisition, which is around the time of puberty, maybe 10 to 15, it becomes very hard or very difficult for adults to acquire another language fully as native speakers. On the other hand, and this is according to some research, some other researchers showed that students in their early teens are quicker and more effective second language learners in classroom than 7 years old. And this is also a very interesting piece of information, which is that teens are quicker and more effective second language learning in classroom than 7 years old, which shows the opposite kind of results. So we are not 100% definite about this, okay, but generally speaking, okay, and according and research showed both types of results. The second factor which takes a place, or which plays a role in second language learning, is the affective factor. So teenagers are typically much more self-conscious than younger children. That means if there is a strong element of unwillingness, or if they don't want to produce different sounds of another language, then it may override whatever physical or cognitive abilities there are. So negative feelings or experiences or emotions are affective factors that can create a barrier to acquisition, and this thing doesn't take place among children. So we can see the affective factor very common, and it appears in children. So if we feel uncomfortable, or if we feel some level of stress, then we may unlikely learn very much about the targeted language or the second language. So children are much less constrained by affective factors compared to adults. We can reverse this sentence saying that adults are much more constrained, more constrained by affective factors than children. Because children normally, in their early lives of exposure to language, they don't have such such feelings of stress or being uncomfortable of learning a specific language, unlike adults. Okay. So there are a number of recent approaches designed to promote the learning of second language. Let's start by the first method, which is considered nowadays as a traditional kind of method, okay, which of course has its own limitations. It's called the grammar translation method, okay, which is very traditional, and it focuses on learning vocabulary. It's based on giving a vocabulary list with sets of grammar with sets of grammar rules. It focuses in memorization, so memorization is encouraged, and written language is emphasized. The second approach is called the audio-lingual method. Again, this method has also its own limitations, and generally speaking, it emphasizes a spoken language. It involves systematic presentation of the structures of L2, so it focuses on the structure, it focuses on syntax, and it helps learners to move from simple to the more complex structures of L2. Language also is seen from this perspective, or according to this method, is a set of habits to be learned. The third approach, which has been designed to promote second language learning, which is considered as one of the most popular approaches in teaching second language, is called communicative approach or approaches. Within these approaches are reactions against the artificiality of pattern practice and against the belief that learning grammar rules of a language will result in ability to use the language. So this approach has been designed or has been promoted against the major belief about learning language as acquiring a grammar rule, and that's it. Okay, according to this approach, language is based on having the ability regarding the use of language rather than just learning about the language. So communicative approaches are based on the belief that the functions of language, which includes what is used for, should be emphasized, not the forms of the language, whether something is correct phonologically or morphologically, and that's it. So it focuses on the functions of language rather than the forms of the language. And this is a very important distinction between communicative approaches and the previous approaches, the grammar translation method and the audiolingual method. So it emphasizes the functions of language, not or rather than the forms of the language. Okay. The most fundamental change in the area of second language learning nowadays has shifted from the teacher, from the textbook, to include the learners, what they think about it, how can we incorporate the learners to the maximum level. So there is an interest in the learners and the acquisition process. Error is regarded negatively and they have to be avoided. So according to this point of view, that correcting students all the time is considered as a negative thing. Okay, and the most important thing is letting them to communicate, to take part in conversation, and that's it. And correcting errors will take place in advanced stages. So within this focus, okay, we have the transfer. Some errors may happen due to transfer, which is called cross-linguistic influence. Using sounds, expressions, or structures from first language when performing second language. So this is the definition of transfer. Again, transfer refers to using sounds, expressions, or structures from L1 when performing second language or when learning second language. This is also called the cross-linguistic influence. For example, some adult learners, okay, might use some, or there might be a transfer, okay, from English or from Arabic, okay, to English, okay. So there is a cross-linguistic influence. The second focus, or the second component that we need to look at, or the second element we need to look at during our focus on the learner, is inter-language or interlanguage. So second language learners normally produce a large number of errors that seem to have no connection to the forms of either L1 or L2. Okay? So it's a matter of creating something new that's created by the children, by the learners. For example, she name is Maria. So this sentence, okay, is not correct. Neither in, it's not used either in French nor in English. Okay, so this sentence, which is produced by French, okay, that is based on either Spanish or English. I think I dropped here something that's not based on either Spanish or English. It's something new. It's something that's not existed either in French as a first language or in English as a second language. Okay, so it's something that's called interlanguage, something in between. It's something in between French and English. Okay, now we move to motivation. Motivation is very, very important. Many learners have instrumental motivation. This type of motivation is a type of motivation that is to achieve some other goal, such as completing a school graduation requirements. So there is a goal, okay, which learners are seeking to establish. So this motivation is called instrumental motivation. On the other hand, the other type of motivation is called integrative motivation, which is achieved for a social purpose, in order to take part in the social life of a certain community, to be part of that community, okay, or in order to be a successful member of that community. Okay, so we can say that motivation has two types: the instrumental motivation and the integrative motivation. Okay. In second language learning, we have what is known as task-based learning. Task-based learning provides overwhelming evidence of more and better L2 use by more learners because it's based on tasks. So there are tasks or activities which are assigned to learners to achieve, to produce. Okay, so this based on research, this way of learning has been proved as a good way for enhancing L2 learners. The goal of such tasks or activity is not that the learner will know more about the L2, but they will develop communicative competence in the L2. And I think every learner, every second language learner, okay, needs to improve, needs to develop this competence, this ability, okay, which regards to communication, rather than just knowing about different things or knowing about different rules or structures. Okay, we need to know how to use them. We need to, enhance this ability of communicative competence. Okay, so communicative competence, what is it? Simply, communicative competence can be defined as the general ability to use language accurately, precisely, appropriately, and flexibly. Okay, let me repeat this. Communicative competence is defined as the general ability or the general capacity to use the language accurately, appropriately, and flexibly. And within the communicative competence, we have four major components. We have what is known as grammatical competence, and this is the first component, which involves the accurate use of words and structure. It deals with grammar. The second component is known as socio-linguistic competence, which enables the learner to know when to say something. So, for example, when to say, "Can I have some water?" versus "Give me some water," based on the differences in social context. Okay? It's based on socio-linguistic environment. The third competence, or the third element of communicative competence, is called strategic. It deals with strategies. So it deals with organizing a message effectively and to compensate for any difficulties, or if there are any difficulties or if there are any problems, okay, the learner should deal with this problem. The learner should solve this problem accurately and correctly. The fourth component of communicative competence is known as communication strategy. And it involves creating a way of referring to the object by using vocabulary someone already knew. That's to overcome potential communication problems in interaction. And I would say that these strategies have a gradual development. So it starts with grammatical competence knowledge, moving to sociolinguistic competence knowledge. After that, knowing about strategic competence knowledge, which would lead to the fourth strategy, or which would lead the learners to the fourth competence, which is known as communication strategy competence. That's all what I want to say for this lecture about second language learning. I hope you enjoy it, and I wish you all the best. As you know, you are most welcome to drop me an email at any time. You have already got my email address, and you are most welcome to raise your questions, your inquiries, or your thoughts, your ideas in the live sessions. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.